We fixed this!
Hooray!
Play it on Xbox One.
Hello and welcome to this month's stream, live here from Playground Games. Today we've got several people on the sofa, but before I introduce them, just want to let you guys know that we can see that you're very excited about the new expansion, but unfortunately we won't be saying much this stream, but we can assure you that we're hard at work. So to start off today, we've got Torben.
Yeah,
How are you, Torben?
Good to be here again, Retro. Been busy fixing stuff, which is great.
And you've been playing anything good?
Yes, festival playlist, of course, and Wildlands. 2.5 years out, it's still pulling me back.
Nice. And Chris?
Hi, good to be here again.
What have you been playing?
I'm still on Red Dead.
Still on Red Dead again.
I think I
Did you get
live
the
out
fish?
my life there. I've caught more fish, yeah.
Oh, great. And Matt?
Hey Retro, how are you doing?
I'm good. What have you been playing?
Mike has got me hooked on a little game called Oxygen Not Included. It's a bit like Spacebound.
It's a good
it's
game.
really good. I'm totally hooked.
So why don't we start off with what we'll be talking about today in stream. So we're going to start off the stream with our festival playlist. Then we're going to move on to some information about some upcoming cars. We've got our brand new custom adventure, which I know a lot of you are really excited to hear about. We've got, as you saw in the video, we've got more information and confirmed fixed wall riding. We've also got the photos slideshow by yourselves, the community. We've got our brand new Horizon story car files. We've got more information about audio. You get to see more in depth from our audio team live here from Playground Games. And to finish it off, we've got updates and fixes. But for one last thing, if you guys, we will be still having a Q&A at the end. If you do have any questions with us, don't forget, post that "Hey Tom" in the chat and we will collect them. Obviously, don't forget that there is some things we can and can't answer. So don't worry, we're not ignoring you. We'll try and answer as much as we can. So, shall we move on to festival playlist?
I think we should, yeah. I am really excited about Series 9 because we've got absolutely loads going on. It's jam-packed full of rewards and exciting things to give away.
And a couple of small things as well.
That's right. The theme for the series is the mini month of May. So we've got something that is mini themed in every week of the series. It's something we've teased on social media, I think, as well a few times.
Yes.
Torben Tuesday tweet.
Yes. People picked up on that one really quickly.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump into the festival playlist and
Yeah.
give you guys a whistle-stop tour of what's coming up. We'll start with the series as a whole.
Right.
We've got some really desirable cars up for grabs for completing the series. So the Quartz Regalia from Final Fantasy and the Bone Shaker. If you've missed either of those two cars on their previous outings, now it is a
I'm
great
really going to be
chance.
going for the Regalia because I literally missed it. And you didn't put it in because I wanted it, right?
Sorry, Tor.
Rigged.
But let's drill down into the summer season, where we've got the first of our minis up for grabs at 50% completion. That is the Mini Morris Traveller. And what else we got? Our new showcase remix.
Yes.
It's called Night Flight. You'll be driving the Lamborghini Countach against a jet black version of the Delta Wing. Yeah, so it's got those 80s vibes going on.
It's a fun one.
It's great. And then we've got a seasonal championship called Summer Specials, where you'll be racing summery cars that all have convertibles, where you can win a mini convertible.
And this is a new Mini, right?
That's right, yeah, brand new and exclusive to the game. And then to round out the content that's across the whole series, we've got a new Horizon story, which I believe you're going to talk us through in a little bit. Great. And a new monthly Rivals event featuring the Maserati MC12 Versione Corsa. Is that right? Did I say that right? Yeah. And that's also brand new. You're going to be hot lapping that around the Greendale Club Circuit. And you'll be able to win that car in autumn for 50% completion of the series. We also have a trial event featuring the Minis, where you'll be able to win the John Cooper Works GP.
Yeah, that one's really hard to get, right?
That's right. It's a wheelspin exclusive normally, so if you haven't grabbed it before, now is your chance.
Nice.
In winter, we've got the Mini Countryman, great for off-roading through the snow.
And that's a new Countryman, right?
Yes, that's right. Another new and exclusive Mini.
Also build it into a bit of a rally car as well.
Yeah, and I should mention that these new and exclusive cars are on top of the normal reward cars that we've got, like the MC12. And then another Mini-themed event going on here, the trial.
X-Raid.
Yeah, with the Mini X-Raid. It's like a Countryman Plus. Great for, it's a legendary car, so if you manage to win it from this trial, you're going to save yourself a bunch of credits. And the one I'm most excited about has got to be this one, the John Cooper Works buggy, which I believe you're going to show us in a bit more detail in a minute.
That's a really cool car.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And then last but not least, in spring, the 50% completion reward is the Buick GSX, which has some interesting design quirks to it, like the rev counter outside the car on the bonnet.
I love that era of muscle cars. That was quite common.
No, it's on the bonnet.
Yeah.
Where else would you put it?
Inside the car.
How'd you do that?
Okay, right. We need to look at that because
Yeah, we'll show it in a bit.
Yeah, and I'm sure the eagle-eyed among you will have noticed that there is a Horizon Edition car, Forza Edition car, every week as the 80% completion.
Nice.
We've got a mini-themed Forza-thon, and most importantly, I need to mention
there we go.
the Apollo Intensa Emozioni, I believe they pronounce it.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be up for grabs from the spring trial event.
Right.
And
Gonna look forward to that one.
yeah,
That's a good reward.
cool. So let's move on from festival playlist.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of those cars.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna hand the pad over to
So we're conveniently sitting in the Apollo.
Brief first.
We had a bit of a dev issue there.
Okay.
So this thing's absolutely phenomenal. It's been kind of going around on social media a lot lately.
Yes. Yeah, we
about to say,
teased
following
this
up.
one.
Torben Tuesday, some
we
people
teased
guessed
ourselves,
it.
Yeah.
I must admit, definitely keep an eye on Torben screens. That was definitely one of the. To be honest, it was the most picked up one.
Well, yeah, I mean, there were like 5 things that we hinted to there,
Yeah,
and this
yeah.
one was.
very picked up on the Apollo.
So, I know everyone's been
that
asking it
dash.
for a while. Yeah, it looks like a jet fighter in it.
Looks so nice.
Yeah. I love the rear view mirrors as well.
Yes.
So yeah, this thing, 780 horsepower V12. It sounds glorious. Really great sounding car. And I think I'm right in saying this car, when you tune the wings up, it's the most downforce of any car in
Can you
game.
just kind of pull out so we can see it from the outside? I mean, that has got a lot of wing.
Yeah. Big wing.
Quite a bit.
Just to spin the camera around as well. I know you're going quite quick, but if you slow down.
Stop.
Oh, look.
Yeah. It's just so amazing, the angles on this car.
It looks like a kid designed it in a good way. Like,
Yes.
when you're a kid, the kind of car you imagine.
Yeah, what you
yourself
imagine
designing when
a
you're older.
hypercar looks like.
Yeah.
It's
got this beautiful kind of purple carbon fibre as well.
Really nice.
So yeah, this thing's really cool, really fast. So
What's the top speed? Do we know the top speed?
There's about 205 stock, I think.
Oh, nice.
But yeah,
But
Okay.
it's like, as Chris mentioned, it's the downforce that allows you to just keep that speed up round corners.
yeah. So this thing, especially for circuits like where we are right now,
Yes.
it's
Just going to
perfect for
ride
it,
around those. That's really.
I'm not driving very well today, apparently. So yeah, absolutely phenomenal car.
I'm about to say, yeah. It's all right with 3
Casually
stars.
speeds
It
up.
was the car, it wasn't me.
That's really cool. Okay, so what else have we got?
Should we show you that Buick?
Sure. Yes.
Go on.
I mean,
Why not?
Yeah, I think it takes the crown for weirdest design feature with the rev counter outside.
Yeah.
It used to be the Porsche 718, in my opinion, which has a windscreen wiper on the inside.
Really?
Yeah, it has
Why?
one on the outside as well, but I don't know. They just decided you needed to
Just why not?
really make sure you needed to see where you were going.
So if you ever leave a window open.
Yep, that rev counter's on the
So
bottom.
I think the thing I love most here is they've put a clock where you could have put the rev counter, but nope, the rev counter is on the bonnet.
And it's illuminated as well, so like at night time.
Yeah,
it's there.
obviously, so otherwise you wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to see it.
Oh, of course.
Well, I mean, how can you see it in the rain or the snow? Like,
I suppose that's a solution.
One of the
So
designs, I suppose.
it's a really cool car. This era of muscle is just amazing.
yeah.
What's this car going to be good at in the game?
Drag racing for sure.
Right.
So it's just part of the festival playlist. Is that how you get these?
Yep, there's some festival players, isn't that?
Yes.
spring?
Yep.
Yeah, it was spring.
Spring?
50%, yeah.
Sweet.
Really cool car. I just love driving the muscle stock. They're just so leery, it's great.
Cool. Okay.
So next up, we have actually one of my favourites from way back in Horizon 1. We first brought this car to the franchise and bringing it back now.
I'm really excited about this one. That's why I put it in the monthly rivals. I was reading some of the blurb about it, and it's basically Maserati built the MC12 like to homologate it, and then consumer demand was so high, people were like trying to buy the racing cars, so they were like, oh fine, okay then we'll make some of these special editions. And
Yeah, so it ended up being a bit of a celebration because the MC12 GT1 car, excuse me,
Yeah.
literally dominated
yeah.
for quite some time. And as you say, it's because they just homologated the road car.
Yeah.
And in the end, they changed the regulations. I think it was to do with the length of the car,
So
just so it couldn't compete, really.
it was that good.
They never stated it, but it was fairly obvious what they did.
Right.
So in celebration of that, Maserati built, I can't remember, it's under 10 examples of this, I think. And these are track only,
Yeah.
kind of roadified, they're not road legal race cars. They have an interior and things like that. But yeah, awesome cars. I
the
think
word Maserati like applied
Written across.
the
yeah.
That's great.
Why not?
From memory, it's again about 750 horsepower V12. Sounds amazing. It's a Ferrari
Nice.
derived V12.
Yeah.
A lot of downforce because GT1 car. And in Horizon terms, it's a good Goliath car for those that like lapping Goliath.
Do we have any more to show off? Or should we move on?
So I think one of the more oddball cars we've got this series is the John Cooper Works. Is that the right one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Buggy.
The buggy.
And that doesn't look like a buggy to me.
It's like someone took a buggy and a mini and just kind of like.
Just merged them together,
Yeah.
squished them.
For a minute, it's quite big.
And even in terms of what it is, it's a very unique kind of car. It's an inline-six turbo diesel mid-mounted and rear-wheel drive,
Oh, right.
which works great for things like Dakar. You want kind of that weight a bit more rearward. And I think with the rear-wheel drive, you get to use a taller tyre, which is why a lot of people these days are going rear-wheel drive in Dakar again.
Right.
And it's gigantic. It's
Yeah.
when you start driving it through Edinburgh streets, you realise how big this
Yeah, I
thing
took
is.
it for a spin on the Bamba dunes, and it is just really good fun.
And off-road, this thing's fantastic as well.
So a good candidate for like sticking in your garage when you need an off-road car.
Oh yeah, absolutely perfect. Yeah, good,
Right, so
really
I
good.
definitely want to give this a drive over the dunes.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And just completely ridiculous.
So is this another festival playlist car? Can we?
This was in one of the seasonal championships in winter.
Nice. Okay.
So yeah, it's not too difficult to obtain, even though it's really cool. So you can look forward to getting your hands on this one.
Get that in winter.
Yeah,
Nice.
perfect
All
season
the
for it.
nav data there as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's really nicely
Oh
designed,
right,
actually.
that's
that one.
like the GPS for getting
that's-
through the
yeah.
desert.
Yeah.
That's great.
Amazing.
Cool. Okay.
Right, should we move on? Is that all the cards for that one?
Yeah.
Right, so I know a few of you in the streams, I know a few of you have seen from the past streams as well that we've mentioned a little bit about Custom Adventure. Well, it is finally here, so should we show them a bit of Custom Adventure?
Absolutely. So Custom Adventure is coming in this update. We've spoken about it previously, hinted about it, and had it up on our screens when
Yep.
we took pictures.
Search in a Custom Adventure mode.
But it basically lives in Quick Play Adventure. It has its own tile over here. Choose your own adventure, and it is kind of an upgraded version of the feature that we had in Horizon 3. It allows you to select the racing series that you want to take part in: road racing, dirt racing, cross-country, street racing, and all, which, as you would imagine, is all.
Yep.
And then currently 4 car classes, mirroring what we have in the standard adventure types, B, A, S1, and S2. And then the ability to switch off free roam rush, and of course
I
the
know
ability.
that's very popular.
Yes, we took it out, but if you absolutely want to have road racing S2 with free roam rush on, this is the place you can come and get it.
Well, fair enough. If that's what you want.
And you can also switch off collisions. And this
Nice.
is,
I know that was another popular request, whether to have, because some people do like the collisions, but some people just want them totally off and, just ride as they please, which
Exactly.
is what they can do.
Yeah, this is kind of the way that you can sit down and play the game, just kind of focusing on that optimal driving line around the track. But for everyone else who just wants to play the game and jostle, we've made some other changes that we're going to be looking at. Fixed a couple of things, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So can you do all the different options? Is there some limitations?
So it's basically what we can see here. Currently it's configured to permit every combination of this, but we'll be looking at what works and what people are using. The other thing, thanks for bringing this up, the really important thing to keep in mind with this is if you say, for example, I want to do road, B-class, free roam rush off, collisions off, and start matchmaking for this, you're dependent on other people wanting exactly that.
Okay.
So if you go looking for a very specific custom adventure, it may take a while to make it for you. But you can leave it running and then just play the game as normal. While
So obviously the more popular it is, the quicker you'll sort of load into a game and lobby.
Exactly.
Right.
But if you want quick adventures, these are your options.
I'd say, what if anything's requested? Will we be making any changes to that?
Well, I mean, we could look at potentially enabling some of the other classes. I know people like X-Class. So, I mean, we'll look at feedback and look at the data and see how that's playing out and see what we can do with it.
Nice, nice.
Cool.
So let's move on to obviously what I know a lot of people are interested in. So a few of you saw the beginning video, and we have in fact fixed wall riding. So why don't we show it in action?
Yeah.
So this is some video that we captured earlier. These are A-class cars. And basically what we're seeing is the new system in play. This is actually the corner from the video we cut at the beginning. And you can see you hit a wall and you get a wall riding collision. What's actually happening behind the scenes here, Chris?
So we've got two systems. We've actually got multiple systems, but two main systems kind of working together here. So the first one is what we call wall riding or wall collision. So that's now looking at how much lateral force you're colliding with the wall with. So essentially, how much help is the wall giving you in cornering? Because in that scenario there with this red Audi, if that barrier wasn't there, they'd have ended up somewhere off in that farmer's field.
Yeah.
So we're looking at how much has the wall given you,
Right.
and then we're using that to determine how much slowdown you're going to get.
So the BMW just kind of clipped through that. What was that?
So that's the other system that kind of works together with this, and we're looking at the speed difference between cars. We're not looking to apply blame to anyone, because that's actually a very difficult thing to do, and even in proper motorsports. They have, is it 5 marshals in F1, and even then it can take them an entire race to decide on fault for much more minor things. So we're just saying the faster car will be ghosted, because in most scenarios, or all scenarios even, the faster car is the one that's going to cause the most chaos in a collision.
Yeah.
So we're just going to ghost out a car that's going significantly faster than everyone else.
So what happened there? It looks like the Audi was pushed into a wall, but didn't get a wall riding penalty there.
Yep, well spotted. So
And
it
again
happens
there.
here, yeah. If you're pushed into a wall, so someone trying to benefit from the wall riding system, we're detecting that as well.
Right.
And the car that is being pushed into the wall will be ghosted, so they can get away from the wall and away from the car-to-car collision. They won't get any penalty applied to them. The car behind is probably going to hit the wall, and they're going to get slowed down.
Okay. So I can't actually bomb you into the wall to make you wall ride.
No, you can't. So now, so here's a nice example actually.
Right. Okay.
Well, this car, the BMW now gets some slowdown, and if you look how far away the pack's gone
he's
now.
toast now,
yeah.
right?
I mean,
So
this was why we sort of delayed it a little bit in the first place. I know we tested the wall riding, we had it to go out, but the issue was, we wanted to deal with things like this, and that's why we decided to delay it and instead bring it out as a whole sort of fix overall, so that, we don't want anyone to have an unhappy experience, so it definitely helps out with that.
yeah. And it's definitely made, I was going to say, it's made racing internally with our playtests significantly cleaner and a lot more fun, actually, I think, in my opinion. So here's a great example. Someone just dive bombing right down the inside.
The thing that I noticed that, sorry to interrupt you, was the Audi here and the car in front of it were kind of jostling through that corner, and none of them were ghosting, none of them were getting penalties.
Yeah, because it's looking at speed deltas, we're actually looking at very high speed deltas or differences. So the classic door-to-door racing that everyone loves, that still happens because that's actually in a very small speed difference. The big kind of, like for example here, the Jaguar spun out, you've got a very large speed difference and it's triggering the ghosting.
Right. To kind of, if there's an incident ahead of you on the track, you will just go through it.
Yes.
And they will need to deal with whatever's happened. Also, you notice there, we clipped the wall or just lightly touched it and that didn't wall ride.
Nope, so we do have a kind of a threshold or dead zone, if you want to call it, of a small amount of time. Because glancing blows like that, we don't want to be penalising things like that. So yes, small glancing blows and very short collisions, you won't get any penalty for that.
But if you try to actually ride the car around the corner, you're toast.
Yeah.
And what about free roam rush?
It's not an free roam rush.
I was about to say, it's just online only, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's online only, so not against AI offline. You really get slowed down.
And what about if you're in a cross country and you hit a tree?
Trees, it doesn't work on. So trees, wall riding's not applied for those collisions, but street races, if you hit a wall in Edinburgh, say, a building, it'll trigger for that.
There you go.
So it's just walls which you can wall ride around, essentially. So I think here so this clip I think is a really nice one. So here this Audi's made a bit of a mistake, and in a minute he's going to have a bit of a race with this Subaru.
Yeah, they've both kind
really
of clipped walls and slowed down.
Yeah, so they start racing each other, and they're actually going very slow for this route. And the Jaguar behind, who's been racing very cleanly,
Just
went through. And before this system, the way these two cars were defended is they'd have pulled across onto the line or into their path to create a collision. Here we're just saying the car's going faster, it's going to go through, and it makes for much cleaner racing.
And it doesn't just apply to racification, right?
No. So so here the Jag came through, clipped that wall, which was just a building, and gets the slowdown applied.
And that is what classically would have been like cornering on a player?
Yes.
Cornering on a player, yeah. So now you just go straight through them, and in this case you pick up a bit of a wall collision penalty. If you go into a corner that fast, you're probably going to get a penalty.
Yeah. But as we can see there, right, the jostling is still very much in play.
Yeah.
It's only ghosting you with if you're going much faster implicitly because
in
you're
fact,
doing better corners.
That actually shows quite nicely that the jostling, while it can be really fun, it's not the fastest way to race. So in that case there, the Jag, driving very clean on the racing line, just went straight through the two cars that are having a bit of a fight. So it really shows, as that happens, why is it you're going so slow? It starts to tell you what scenarios you're going slow and how to improve on that.
So that's going out in this update?
Yep, that's in update 9.
Which also I should mention, the update is coming within the next 24 to 48 hours, so we will actually be rolling the update out soon. So yeah, this will be live. So guys, we're going to move on to the next thing, which is actually our community photos. We know a few of you have been sending them in, and let's show them off. thanks to all of those that sent in the photos. For those that are wondering, you can send them to our social media, which is our Twitter @WeArePlayground. That was the theme, Be One with Nature. If you have any theme ideas, definitely send them my way as well. You can send them either on the forums, the Discord, or our Twitters or Instagram. So as you can see, we've got someone else on the sofa with us. We've got our audio team, Fraser.
Hi.
Hi. That's really finished. So what have you been playing?
I have been playing a lot of PUBG, which is I'm quite ashamed by that. But I've also been picking up God of War recently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice choice.
Yeah, it's won a lot of awards. So yeah,
Nice.
good one.
So if we have a quick talk about the photos, is there any photos you guys liked?
W8,
W89 PL. Yeah.
PL, right?
Oh, he sends loads of photos and they're really good. Really good.
One of the autumnal road.
Yeah, with
Phenomenal.
the autumn
Yeah.
leaves. Oh, look at that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely stunning.
They're all amazing entries, though. Really are.
Yeah.
Really great stuff.
So why don't we speak about what's coming up with the rest of the stream? So coming up, we've got our new Horizon story, Car Files. Now with Fraser on the sofa, we've got more speak about all our audio. We've got our updates and fixes, and don't forget, if you've got anything Q&A related, shout "Hey Tom" in the chat, and we'll answer them at the end. So why don't we move on to our first Horizon story?
Absolutely. Just recapping really quickly, if I can make my fingers work, on Festival Playlist. Yes, otherwise it's going to be difficult to control it. You can see there is a new monthly element in Festival Playlist, which is the Horizon story. And as you earn stars on this, they credits towards your progression. You don't need to get all of them. If you get some of them, you get some of the percentage that's on offer. This story is one that we've had in the bank for a while, that we've been working on, and I'm really happy to be bringing it to the game finally. It's a new Horizon business, so completing this will also earn credits for you.
Nice.
And some people would have picked up by looking at the scary math that we had on our
the
whiteboard.
on Tuesday?
Yes. This one is about the wonderful world of car insurance.
Nice. I know that was picked up a lot. People started thinking we were going to sell car insurance,
Yes.
but no, we're not going to do that.
Yes. No, it's actually entirely the opposite. It's the idea here is that there is a German automotive engineer who's a consultant. He's the kind of guy who's brought in when someone is saying, "Oh, my Volkswagen Type 2 took off when I was flying down the motorway on it," and he's the guy they bring in to see, well, can it actually fly? And we've just built out a bunch of stories that are all tapping into weird and wonderful things that you can do with cars, including some things that are really quite tricky. Getting 3 stars on a bunch of these chapters will need you to think quite seriously out of the box, or go on the internet and look up strategy. But as is usual, let's play a chapter of that just to take a look at it. I will grab this one here. Which is specifically the one about the Volkswagen Type 2, and fire it off and hand it over to the man who tuned it.
Oh, I'm driving this one.
Yes.
So,
Didn't practice
So you need 3 stars then.
right, so yeah, perfect score now. Perfect score.
You gotta go.
Gotta go fast.
Yeah. I set the 2 stars before we came on, so you've got to be 1 minute 35.
And build performance vehicles in Germany. Come to the pursue a more exciting vocation.
As being competitive. Are you sure?
Here's where I don't. Fail miserably.
That's it. First corner straight into a wall.
Yes, that will not get 135. There's a fun reward on this. The crash test dummy morph suit. If you want to look like a crash test dummy, you need to get 30 stars on this.
I mean, I always wanted to look like one of them.
Yes.
I wonder if can you combo that with the bunny ears that we've just got in this
You can combo.
playlist?
You can combo it with hats.
Yes. Okay.
And
That's my new
shoes
outfit.
and jackets. Right.
Most bizarre combos.
So straight north.
So we have a brand new character for this, right?
We do.
Yeah.
This is Hans Liebold, a German originally from Bielefeld, for people who picked up on that reference. And for anyone who's familiar with Sergei here in the UK, they'll know the voice actor who did this for us.
Oh, compare the market.
It is.
Meerkat,
Yes.
even.
Compare the Meerkat. Yes. He came in and he did an absolutely wonderful job on Hans Liebold for us. And this is one of the stories where we just had fun with what the narrative was going to be and what the cars could be. There's everything in here from Morris's to 1940s era Jeeps. The Reliant Robin is in this one. The racing truck is in this one.
Nice.
Really kind of just. I remember sitting down with the car handling team and you, Chris, we were talking about what could we do that would be fun and off the wall in this story. So it's definitely
there's some absolutely amazing fun things in this.
Yes, and this you're probably okay if
I feel like I'm about to crash though.
The gods of traffic willing.
Got 10 seconds
Don't feel like a Type 2 should be doing 150 miles an hour.
No, wait, you might make it. 3, 2, 1. You did it. I think you just did that. You might have just made that. Sorry, Fraser.
124.
Oh, nice. Chris is just like, yep.
What you
Act smug. Smug mode.
What you said there was absolutely what we were
See, even
going
you guys
for, right?
being smug.
Like Type 2 should not be doing that.
Yeah. I think that's like the premise for this entire story, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, I don't want to spoil any of the little hints and tricks that are in the rest of this, the ways to get 3 stars, because there are some situations where there are some strategies.
Ooh.
But if anybody wants to hang around on the stream, I think Turn 10 might be talking about that.
Deep diver into that in Forza Monthly.
Yes.
So should we leave that for now for everyone else?
Just to recap, it's in Festival Playlist. You don't need to get all 30 stars to get a large proportion of it, but it's fun gameplay with a bunch of crazy German-themed quotes.
And it'll be out in this update?
Yes, absolutely.
Nice. Right, guys, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is actually audio. So I know we've had a lot of questions, so we decided to get Fraser on board to help us answer them. The main thing is we feel that we want to give you a bit more information on the sort of process and the things that go on with our audio team and recording the sounds of cars and how we actually get them from IRL to in-game. So Fraser, should we start off? Do you want to tell us a little bit how we get cars in the game?
Sure. I mean, we've got a massive amount of cars in the game. I think we're up to round about 600 now. And the first biggest thing is just finding the right cars. I think we all know that every single car has a unique sound to it. There's no one car that sounds exactly the same as another. So we go about spending a lot of time actually finding a specific car to record for the in-game cars.
So you mean like finding someone who has a car that...
Exactly, yeah.
Nice.
I mean, for instance, my car, it pains me to say, it doesn't sound the best that it could be. So we need to find people that have cars that really actually sound good, not just when they're revving them, but potentially, in our game, we're driving around at 200 miles an hour most of the time, which is the top end of the RPM range, and we need our cars to sound good up the top there as well. Even once we've found someone that owns a car like that, we have to spend a lot of time vetting it. So like we get them to maybe send us a video of them driving around in it. Maybe we go out to find the people on location so we can hear it in real life. That whole process takes quite a long time to actually vet it.
What are you talking here? Months?
It can be months sometimes. As an example, when we worked on the McLaren Senna,
right.
That was, despite that was being the hero car of the game, we were working with McLaren on that. That was still probably 2 months just in the run-up to the recording session, just emailing back and forth, just trying to find the date that the car was available. That car, for instance, there was only 3 of them available in the whole of Europe at the time because it wasn't released at that point. So there's quite a long run-up to that. And even once we found a car, availability can cause recording sessions to be pushed out. Like, say for instance, you had a great sounding car, but you've got a job during the week. I mean, my job is to record cars Monday to Friday, right? But getting people that can take some time off of work, come down to the airstrip, make sure if we've got 2 or 3 cars at once, we're actually getting them all there at the same time. It's quite a large logistical challenge. So
you talked about vetting cars. I mean, I would imagine. I mean, you're a bit of a gearhead. How many of your cars are like? Have you tweaked and adapted and changed to the point where it might be sounding a little bit different?
All of them.
Right.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it does lead me to the next question: is how do you exactly get to recording the sounds? I mean, you mentioned the airstrip. I'm guessing that's related to it.
So once we found a car, we need to then hire out an airstrip, which is just a long piece of land that we can basically get the car up to top speed and let it decel down to idle.
Like you said, it's a different sound at 200 miles per hour than
exactly right. So we need to capture the full range, but that's kind of it can be awkward because depending on where the car is located, we might need to book an airstrip that's closer to where the car is. So, for instance, when we did the McLaren, we went down to Dunsfold Aerodrome, which is, it's 2.5 hours from where we are. Sometimes we have airstrips that are closer to where Playground Games is, but it perhaps isn't as, it's not a great location for these people to drive their cars to. Sometimes we have to find a location that's right in the middle of the country, because if we have 3 people coming, they all have to come from different parts of the country to the closest position. And something we were talking about was sort of noise levels, because there's actually a lot of racetracks and airstrips around the UK where you can't actually record cars that are over a certain volume. I think
of like noise pollution.
Yeah, it's kind of a council standard where you can't record over a certain decibel level. So you have to go out to the airstrip, you have to set up decibel noise levels, and you actually have to kind of record the car in situ and figure out how loud it actually goes. So so that's one part of it. But once we actually get the airstrip booked, that can be quite tentative because we're in the UK, right?
Can't just casually get an airstrip.
Well,
it's quite hard to.
It's hard to get an airstrip at the best of times, and then being the UK, the weather is pretty unpredictable. So I'd say that every 1 in 4 recording sessions that we book actually gets cancelled because maybe it ends up raining that day, because we have to book these like a couple of weeks out, and the weather's always changing. So.
It has to be dry not only for recording, but also some of the cars we're getting in are like 700-800 horsepower rear-wheel drive things.
Exactly.
There's a safety aspect.
There's a massive amount of noise that comes off of the road when you drive in wet weather conditions. So you can hear the spray coming up. We recorded a great car, but we weren't able to use it at all because all you could hear was this just off the back end. It's okay when you're full throttle, but as soon as you lift off the throttle and the kind of tone disappears, that's just when you hear the road noise come in. So airstrips we have to make sure the airstrips are quite smooth as well.
I was about to say, right, can't be all airstrips that you can use even.
Well, some of them are quite bumpy because it's almost like they need it to be grippy so that when planes land, it's actually easy for them to brake. So it's pretty complex to find the right place, the right time, the right circumstances. In saying that, with us being in the UK, we have to record between April and October to get the best daylight, kind of British summertime. The temperature is a big thing as well. Well, cars can sound a little bit different depending on the temperature, but that's not the main problem. The main problem is if you've got 2 guys standing outside in the middle of December, holding a boom mic.
Shivering.
Yeah, I mean, I have frozen myself recording some cars before, but it's not the nicest, and you end up wondering if you're going to have to take some fingers off. But so, if we manage to actually get a place booked. The traditional thing is that we take 3 recordists down to the place. So when we get a car in, we kind of split the job up. So we've got maybe one person's in charge of miking up the exhaust, another person's in charge of miking up the engine, someone's inside putting microphones in the internals. And then, we'll get one person who actually rides in the passenger seat, telling the driver the maneuvers that we need to do for each of the cars, whilst we have 2 other people out on the side of the track who are recording pass-bys, and that gets that kind of like sound stuff, which...
That's a good impression.
Thank you.
Might be an audio designer.
Well, yeah, I mean, surprisingly, I don't make all the sounds in the game through my voice, but...
I just want to go back to something you mentioned. You said the driver. Is it him?
Chris is like, please.
I think Chris has got a couple of cars I'd like to record, but I don't think I've ever gotten Chris out on the track. It's a very hard thing to tell someone what you need to do. You're basically telling them to drive the opposite way from the way that they've ever driven before. Telling someone to just stay in a single gear, like slam down full throttle and just ride it all the way up to the limiter. Most people don't want to hit the rev limiter because at that point you're basically just braking your car.
Okay, so let me just understand this, right? If I have a car that you want to record, I basically have to sign off on you redlining it
You don't
for a day?
I mean, we don't force people to do it, but you tend to find that if someone owns the car, they're not likely to do it. If it's a rented vehicle, then those are the vehicles that get driven pretty badly most of the time.
Right.
So yeah, it's hard for people to drive these vehicles the way they need to. Although we've kind of gotten into the hang of telling people sometimes how to do it. And once we've got these cars mic'd up and out on the track, the hope is that we could potentially try and do 2 or 3 cars a day at most. The limiting factor is there that we like to get lots of maneuvers and pass-bys, because we have a lot of cutscenes in the game, we have a lot of trailers, we have a lot of cinematics, and we need all of those sounds for that sort of material as well, not just for the in-game sounds.
Good. So talking about the airstrips and getting everyone down, I've heard we've got a little video.
We do. We have a few clips here.
Yep. So why don't we show you guys what we've got? We've got the audio team here at the airstrip.
That's in-game.
I'm about to say that's a really good clip showing it, from IRL to in-game, because I mean that's something that a lot of people don't see these days. So no, it's really good.
This A45 was one of my favourite cars to record, because it turned up and it was just the raspiest, nicest sounding A45, and it then translated really well into games. So that's kind of what these clips are kind of going to show, what it sounded like in real life going into the game. I think next up we've got the Dodge Viper that we recorded. So this was an absolutely epic beast. This thing was taken off the line, would not stay straight. A lot of the times they can sound quite flat, but this one was really raspy and kind of captures the character of the vehicle.
How much does that vary from one car to another within like the same mark?
They can vary quite a lot. I mean, this does sound quite like what you would expect to hear a Viper to sound like if it drove past you on the track. A lot of the times you can hear Viper sounding either slightly more aggressive or a bit more smooth, and it kind of depends on the type.
But yeah, should we check out another car? We've got the Audi.
Sure. Thanks. I'm not much of a video editor, but
I was about to say that was nice. That sounded good.
Yeah, I like that one as well. That one actually has got an interesting section, probably around about 3,000 or 4,000 in the game, where the car actually has some boost that kicks in, and you can actually hear the transition. So as you sort of full throttle that car, you can hear it kind of going, and it sort of kicks in, which is pretty cool. Kind of that felt weird to put in the game because it sounds a bit broken, but actually it's what the car totally sounded like in real life. Yeah.
Right, so we try the Lamborghini next?
Yeah, we've got the Aventador next.
Any mics?
I was about to say, have you killed any of them?
Incidentally, we did kill a couple of microphones. We name all of our microphones, and I think Jedward was killed on that trip.
What a shame.
Yeah, I think it was predicting something, wasn't it?
Well, yeah.
So next up, we've got the McLaren Senna, which is something.
The cover car, of course.
Something that a lot of people will have seen, but I think it was a cool recording trip. So this was one of the ones where it was a really wet day and we had no control over the track at all. We just had to go out and record it. but actually because the exhaust kind of points up on that car, with the microphones pointing towards the exhaust that's pointing up, it actually kind of shielded itself from the wet weather. So,
so it worked in your favour in the end.
Yeah, exactly. I was definitely very worried about the sound of that, but it worked out well.
Yeah, I can imagine, right? Because that was one of 3 cars in Europe in the run-up to the launch of this thing, and if that had been a scrub.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it worked out. Otherwise, I might not.
Really got that distinct RB sound.
Yeah, that was a cool car to go out and record. Yeah.
So moving on from those audio sounds, do you want to tell us a little bit about the process?
Sure. I mean, recording the cars is only really half of how we do it. Once we've got all the recordings, we need to bring them back to the studio and actually do stuff to get them into the game. Once we get them back, we obviously offload all the stuff from the recorders, and we split them into 2 sessions. So we've got the onboard recordings of the car, which is, all these the microphones that are dotted all around the car. The pass-bys I mentioned, they're given to one of the other audio designers, and they will go and chop those up so that we can get them into our library, so that we can actually record that stuff for the cinematics. Once we get the onboard recordings into our software, which is called Pro Tools, we actually treat each one of the individual microphones for things like wind noise or just individual EQ, because we might find that as you place them in different parts of the car, you get different sounds. So like as you place it closer to the exhaust, you get this thing called proximity effect, which is the closer you get to the source of a sound, the bassier it gets, which sometimes you might think that's a good thing, but actually it can mask the real sound of a car. So we EQ every channel. We also kind of clean it up. You tend to get that up the top of the RPM range, you get a lot more noise, which is just purely from the amount of air that's flowing through that exhaust. You get this kind of like sound, and we try and pull a bit of that back so we get a bit of the tone out of the back end of it.
So from start to finish, how long do you think it roughly takes, or does it just vary depending on obviously the car and the sounds?
It does vary depending on the car, because if a car is really tonal, then it will perhaps not take as long. If a car is quite airy, something like a Subaru or a Mitsubishi, those cars have exhausts on them that are absolutely massive, and the amount of air that can come through them is huge. So processing is kind of a fluid thing. I'd say 2 to 3 days per car just to get them sounding right. One of the things we also have to consider is, and people who play drums will be familiar with this, but when you place microphones at different points of the car, you have to compensate for the speed of sound. So if they're supposed to be from the same point, the different delay can actually cause phase cancellation, which causes you to lose low end in the car. So to make sure that our cars have lots of low end, we make sure that we get the phase just right on those.
Nice. So talk about the process. Do you want to go a bit more into details about the granular synthesis process?
Sure. So once we've done all that stuff, which is no small feat, we export it as a multi-channel WAV, and we bring it into what we call our granular engine synthesis, which does a few things. The first thing we do is we run frequency analysis on it, which uses some calculations to figure out what the frequency is at different RPM ranges, and then once we've kind of got this nice curve, which is for the acceleration and the deceleration, we have limiter samples and idle as well. We then run some analysis on that, and we chop it up into tiny little grains. So, and each one of those grains is actually a single engine rotation. So lower down the RPM range, you're going to get like larger chunks, and up the top you're going to get smaller ones. And once we've done that, you've basically then got hundreds of tiny little pieces that you can play back, which makes it really reactive. Once you get into the game, you find sometimes that granular actually lets the cars be a little bit more responsive.
Yeah, you can actually feel it. It runs at a much higher frequency, and you can definitely feel that response. Like when you rev the engine, the audio is just reacting that much quicker from it.
So what about the mix process as well? Because obviously this is a different type.
Sure. I mean, So, once we've processed it, we've put it into granular synthesis, then we have to bring it into the game. And we've got 5 different channels. We've got exhaust, engine, intake, and 2 internal channels. So we have to do a lot of balancing on those levels to make sure that within a car, we're using the reference that we recorded on that day to actually balance, the exhaust against the engine to make sure it actually sounds like the car. Once we've kind of balanced all those pieces together, we then take all the bits we've chopped out from the car. So every car has unique pops and bangs, like backfires, gear change sounds and stuff like that. We then do a pass where we put all of that onto the car and kind of make sure that we put the character back into the car. And then we do a bit of an upgrades pass because, of course, in Horizon you can upgrade your engine. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can add turbos. You can add superchargers. So every car we need to make sure that it's got all of those, like the kind of matrix of different things you can add to it. Combine that with, once you've done a single car, you then have to make sure that that car is balanced compared to every other car. So, 600 odd cars. That's an amount of time you have to spend to make sure that that car is the same volume as the last one, and mix that compared to the music, compared to the in-game sounds. So, yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm about to say, sounds it. I know we've already spoken a little bit about the time and length, so onto another, which is definitely a favourite topic of mine, car horns. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about them? Because they are car related, but not slightly different.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was quite interesting on this game was that we introduced musical car horns on Forza Horizon 3, and they went down really well. But we'd kind of never done it before, so we were kind of just stabbing in the dark with that. We thought we did a good job, but I thought we could do a better one on Horizon 4. And one of the things I really wanted to mimic was when you actually get a real-life musical car horn. When you get those ones, they're kind of pre-programmed different air valves, and so we actually bought one of these ones online, and it came with 4 or 5 different sizes of horns. So we took these and we basically broke it apart, and we went out into a field and we recorded individual sounds of each of the horns so that we could hopefully get different musical notes and then
get it as realistic as possible
and bring them back into the studio. Yeah, I think we actually have some footage of Rich Blackley, our audio designer, out on field.
And we have modded the can sprayer so it just fits into the pipe.
So there was a dog walker that walked past and kind of just sat down on one of the benches and just watched us for an hour.
Did you speak to them after?
I don't think they could hear after all those times. Yeah. The cool thing is that we actually have a musical instrument in the audio department now, where you can play any musical car horn you want on the piano. So we've got some guys who are really good at playing the piano, playing like a bit of Bach on the car horn. So hopefully we can make some more musical car horns going forward.
I'm not bothered about the Windows XP horn, but we know where that's from.
Yes.
So no, thanks Fraser for all that information on audio. Hopefully that gives an insight to all you guys in the chat, just a little bit more about what goes on right here at Playground Games. So we're going to move on just to updates and fixes and say some things that are coming up in the brand new update. I know we've got quite a few audio and car fixes. Do you guys want to talk a little bit more about them? I think there's only 1 or 2. Don't know if you know which.
Sure, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, who wants to go?
Yeah, we've got a couple of audio fixes. One of them was quite an elusive bug for us, which was the Koenigsegg Agera, which was basically, if you spent a certain amount of time playing in that car and going up through the gears, eventually it would get louder and louder and louder. And this was something that was reported by the community, and we were looking into it, but we couldn't reproduce it. We couldn't figure out what the parameters were to actually get this to show up in game, which is something that if you do find something in the community, it's really great to get as much information as possible about this stuff. But we stuck at it. We managed to find what it was, and hopefully we fixed it. Please let us know if we've not. But
I'm sure they will.
yeah, the other one was something that I think we had the wrong engine sound on one of the Hunican trucks. The Huna trucks. So we fixed that. It should be the right stuff now. Hopefully everyone's happy.
Yeah, that's cool. We've got some quality of life stuff coming in for posters where we previously would show a PI range. Now we also show the class. Also, when you start a seasonal championship, or indeed any championship, if you're not on the difficulty necessary to win all the rewards, which is usually expert, but if that changes, it will change. The game will prompt you to say, hey, you're not playing on expert difficulty. If you finish this, you won't get all the rewards. It's just kind of helping to catch situations where maybe you've, as I sometimes do, drop driver difficulty to Forza and then come back and finish the race, and it's
You're
like,
meant to tell people that.
ooh, I need to do all these again. Yes. So I think this update is like a good blend of some really chunky features where, I mean, big chunks of great content, and the wall riding stuff is just...
I'm about to say, I think the wall riding is going to be one of the most, popular ones that we're fixing. Also, I know we've fixed people trying to get a private adventure in a convoy as well, which I know a lot of people did have an issue with, so that's another one we can add to our list. Yes. But we will, if you are looking for the updates and fixes, you can actually find them up on our support site. They will be on later on today or tomorrow, so if you want to know more about them, definitely check the support site out. So we should move on to the Q&A. If everyone's happy for that. So starting some questions. We're going to start with a question for Chris. Any more updates on the body kits?
We don't have a release for them, but we are working on some. That's as much as I can say at the moment.
Nice. So is there going to be potentially fixed for wheel spins? So for example, if people get duplicate cars, is there going to be an option for them to, let's say, sell it or do anything with that?
The short answer to that is we would love to do that. It's like so many other things. It goes into the big stack of stuff we need to prioritize. I think the reason why it's not just a button is in a situation where you might get multiple cars at once, and just twisting the arm of our quite complicated UI system to make it handle things like that it's not trivial. Which is the reason why it's not just like, oh, we'll just do that. It's like, oh, right, if we do this, this will, kind of thing. So it's on the list of stuff. It gets raised internally all the time. Yeah. So that's a resounding maybe.
Maybe. So another question that we always get is class-based rivals. So we have this pop up all the time. All I can say is watch this space. So we'll move on to another question, short but sweet. Some people want to know about the new wall riding fix. Will this be for dirt racing as well, or any specific racing?
So yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's switched on in the adventure types that we have, ranked and unranked adventure. Yeah. And it triggers off of walls and racification, but not trees, for example.
Yeah, it's pretty much every surface except trees. And then, yeah, it's on in every race type, essentially, except for free run rush.
Nice.
No, is it on in drag racing? I'd assume so.
There's no online adventure type for drag racing. So.
Sweet. So I know we've got another question. Is we have a very common question about decals on Windows. Don't think that's going to be coming, is it? Or is it potentially something we could look in the future?
Probably nothing in the immediate future. It's a very difficult one for us to do, the way our cars are built. It's a bit like the paintable brake calipers. It's a bit of a re-engineering of part of the pipeline.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Nothing in the immediate.
Yeah.
No worries. And on the topic of custom adventures, this might be for Torben, will this be in ranked?
No. Custom adventure is, it's literally just a way to give people an arena where they can go and play something very specific that they wanted to do. The reason why it's not plugged into the ranking system is because you could potentially have only a very small number of people playing, and that would be very difficult to get a good true skill score off of that.
Yeah.
So it's designed to give people a way to say, I want to do this kind of racing only, and just consume that.
Yeah. So following on, because it's custom adventure related, some people have asked, I think we touched on this a little bit earlier, some people asked about C and D class. Will we be seeing that in custom adventure, or is it more on requests?
We can. I would really like to see a compelling argument for it.
Okay.
I think, and maybe that comes over different than I meant. What I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to say here is that the big challenge with custom adventure is you're essentially siloing up players who are looking for things.
Yeah.
Every time we say, oh, we add another criteria to it, the chance of finding the 3 other people who want to do that gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But I mean, and I was going to say this when you were talking about raising bugs. Some bits of ticket. We read these, we look at these inform the kinds of things that we prioritize. If C and D class is something that people really desperately want to do, X class for that matter, I don't see why we wouldn't do it. It would, I mean, I might want to do it in a situation where we switched off A and B and switched on C and D to see what that looked like. And that would just be to make certain there were people engaging with those classes so you could get a game.
I was about to say, we're definitely going to keep an eye on it all and see what people respond to and what they do and don't want and how they are enjoying what we've got so far and the opportunities that we could give them as well.
Yes.
So it's definitely something to look into. Another question, which I do know was on last stream as well and openly comes up, will there be any more radio stations or a hint of Spotify?
I don't have an answer for that, unfortunately.
Yeah. So another one is probably for Chris regarding sounds. Let's see. So, oh no, it might be Fraser. Yeah, it might be Fraser. In terms
you can answer it if you want.
About to say, whoever gets there first. About sounds, how does it work when you've got to swap engines around? For example, does it keep the original sound of the car? Is it more related to the engine itself?
To be honest, it is for both of us, isn't it?
Probably is.
Yeah, I mean, this one, when you upgrade your engine in the game, it does physically change from, like, you know, a V6 to a V12. So at that point, you are completely changing the sound of the car. I think a good example of it is the taxi in Aisha's Taxis. I mean, that's a car that goes ridiculously fast. If you had the stock engine in it, it wouldn't go that fast. No. So it's upgraded to, I think, a V12.
It's a V12.
Yeah. So at that point, you're changing to a completely different engine.
Sweet.
But the interior sound of the car, would that be changed out as well?
It's the whole lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all linked. If you've got a V12 in the bonnet of the car, the sound inside the car is going to change.
That was, yes, thank you. I see that now.
So back on about our updating our route creator, will there be a chance that we could potentially do it so users or players can change where they start the race? So obviously at the moment it's very event-based. I know a few people have suggested, could they just have any start line on the map as long as it's on a road as such? Do you reckon that would be something we could implement?
So the answer to that is a little bit complex. It's entirely doable. The questions then become things like, how do you find them? You would then only be able to find those by looking in the route, in the various route lists and route browsers, because there would be no starting location you could go and start it from. But it could be doable. The next thing then becomes, okay, we need to be able to fit a grid of 12 cars. So the system would need to be able to look at, well, where's this car? And then kind of guess backwards from that. To say, oh, right, that goes off a cliff, it can't be here. Which then raises the question of, well, what do we do? Do we just let the player do it and there can't be? And it kind of sparks off kind of what we call second and third tier design questions, which are like, on the surface, it's really easy, just press a button, start a race, okay. But then it becomes, but what about this particular corner case? What if this car would be starting on asphalt, but that car would be starting on dirt? Then, and the player obviously gets pushed to grid position 8. So you might actually be starting in a substantially worse position than a player who's starting actually on the asphalt. So it's definitely on my list of stuff that I would love to do for Route Creator, but I almost feel like I would rather look at opening up more starting locations based on the ones that we have. Like, for example, allowing you to use drag strip starting points. For road races, but that raises a bunch of different discussions as well. Really long answer to a simple question, which is maybe.
Yeah, but that's really good information. So thanks for that, Tolbert.
Sure.
So we're going to lead into our last question because we are getting to the end of the stream now. So a lot of people are saying, hey, they've finished a lot of things on Fortune Island. Any of you might be able to answer this. Is there anything else that might be coming up on Fortune Island, or are we just going to see what the future brings?
We'll need to see what the future brings. We tend to be. So we have short-term timelines where we look at things we're going to add for like the next series or the series after that, and then we have much longer. We usually features and cars that live on a much longer timeline. So I mean, if there are a lot of people playing on, I mean that's I think the thing that drives my thinking about this. How many people are actually engaging with it? How many people are playing? Making a bunch of events when people are broadly going to Fortune Island and then coming back again. Means that it might not be the best place to put a piece of content.
Okay. Just see what the future brings. So thanks everyone. Thanks to you guys who are on the server today. Just to remind you all that if you do have any other further questions, you can ask them either on our Twitter, our Discord, or the best place is if you have any suggestions or feedback, definitely submit a ticket. I'm so gonna get sick of saying that, but submit a ticket on our support site, and I personally will be answering them. So definitely get onto that. Don't forget you can check out our Twitter @WeArePlayground or our Instagram @WeArePlaygroundGames. And thanks everyone for today. And if you're wondering when the update's going to be out, it's going to be rolling out straight after this stream within the next 24 to 48 hours. And we shall see you guys later. Bye!
Play it on Xbox One.